Alright, it's Kevin and we're back on another project for the camper. The Runaway camper. We're going to put a vent in the top of this thing. I told you that's what I wanted to do most of all in this thing, is be able to circulate some air through it. So that's what we're going to do today. I have got a fan. It's called a Fantastic fan. This fan here, 920 cubic foot of fresh air per minute. It's a Fantastic, and I think the model number is 1250. I didn't want one with the thermostat on it. I didn't want a bunch of stuff on it. I got 3 speeds, forward and reverse, and a manual open. That's what I wanted. I don't want anything more. The more stuff, electronics you got on there, the more can go wrong with it. So I just want a manual everything pretty much. I got 3 speeds, and then I got forward and reverse. So I can suck air in or blow air out, and I can open it by hand. That's fine with me. I don't need a thermostat. They say it's a pretty good fan. I actually plugged it in there, and it does circulate some pretty good air. So this is what we're going to be putting in today. So let's see how it goes. Now this installation, I will have to cut the hole in the roof. So I'll do my best to make sure you get to see it all. It's not just replacing a fan. We're going to be cutting a hole to put this thing in. So I think it'll be a lot of fun. Just hang in there and let's see how it goes. Okay, our first step on putting this thing is we're going to have to find the center of this roof. So I know that it's 8 feet long. So I'm going to come back 4 foot on that front, and I'll make a mark, and I'll come over. When I went across here, and I stayed right inside the 2 strips. I don't need to go to the outside because the strips are exactly the same. I come 46 and a half. So I'm going to go 23 and a quarter. So I'm going to try to guesstimate about the center of this. And then I'm going to get me a mark at 23 and a quarter. So I got a mark at 23 and a quarter. Now I'm going to come back my 4 foot here, and I'm going to mark my 4 foot. So I got the center of where I want to work. That's going to be the center of the, I'll double measure this so I know for sure that it's right. Because we don't want a hole wrong, that's for sure. And I have a dyslexia, so if I don't measure it twice, I could get it wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out. I know my fan is a 14 by 14 opening. So I'll measure down here 7 inches off that hole and 7 inches off this hole. Then I'll get a new measurement up, and I'll work off of that, and I'll do the same way with the other side. And then we'll end up with our box. We have, the shroud that goes on this, so we can actually draw our square with the shroud. We might be able to trace it out. So that's what I'm going to work on right now, getting the hole. And I hope you guys understood that. So, like I said, I just found the center, and then I'll make, because I don't want to make marks all over my whole roof. I found the center. I know where my fan's going to go. I'll work off that and get some lines on it. And then we'll stick our box up there, our shroud, and we'll get it put down there, and we'll see if we can get it marked out. This is a little tough because I'm trying to work this camera, and it's just me, but I'll do it the best I can for you. Okay. I hope you guys can see this. We got our square in here. I didn't use the housing, I just measured it out. So I come up my 23 and a quarter, 23 and a quarter, and 23 and a quarter, and then I measured 7 off, 7 this way, and did this all the way back down, back and forth. Then I measured my 4 foot. All these are 4 foot. Went down 7 inches, up 7 inches, down 7, up 7, same way with over there. So we ended up with a 14 by 14 square. Now, in the top of the Runaway camper, there's carpet up there on the ceiling. I need to drill some holes through this thing. It's not a Berber carpet. It looks like something you might put on a speaker. I'm hoping that when I drill through this, it doesn't pull one of the carpet strands and like make a runner all the way across the top. But we're going to shoot for a hole here, and we're going to see what happens. We'll do one. I guess I'll do it for the team, and we'll see what happens inside. So we're going to get one hole drilled. I'm just going to go right in the corner, make sure my bit is lined up with both them lines. Yep, we're through. So I'm not going to brush that off. I'll take the vacuum cleaner and suck it up. This does have aluminum coating on it, so if I brush that with my hands, I'm liable to scratch the top of my camper, and I don't want to scratch it. So I'm going to go inside and see what kind of damage. And it did absolutely no damage at all. Now, I just broke through the wood. I didn't try to shove it through the carpet. I'll go inside with a carpenter knife, and I'll cut that little hole out with a carpenter knife. I didn't go all the way through, so that's a good thing. So that's what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to drill 4 holes. And that way I can run my saw, my little jigsaw, around this thing and get it cut out. But first I'll go inside and I'll cut that carpet off, because I don't know what the jigsaw will do to that carpet. So I'm trying to give you guys step by step here, so that's how we're doing it. I hope you guys can see this, where I'm going to be cutting. So what I'm going to do now is, we're on the inside and we can barely see these holes. They're in here somewhere. That one's right there. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to just cut that hole out just a little bit so we can see them. I'll just take a knife and twist it. That gives me a little daylight up there. So now what we're going to do is, I'm going to take a straight edge, stick it up on the corner of them holes, and we're just going to cut across there. Now, if we get it just a little too big, it's not going to hurt, because I think there's going to be some trim that will have to go on here. And I don't know. Yeah, see, that's going to come right down. And we're going to go all the way around this thing with a carpenter knife. Get this cut off. Like I said, it ain't got to be perfect, because that's something new. I'm looking and they got pressed wood on the ceiling. I don't like that. I thought they would have had a birch plywood on there too, but I guess they're cutting corners like everybody else. Everybody got to cut corners to save money. If I was building this thing, it would have birch plywood on the ceiling too. I was told that it had 1/2 inch birch, but okay, should be good enough to pull this down. And then what we'll do, so that's where our fan's going to go. I hope you guys seen that and learned that this thing has pressed wood on the ceiling. Man, I'm not happy with that, but I'm okay. I mean, I got to deal with it. I've already bought it. I was actually going to build one of these myself, and I would have used birch plywood up there because it's a lot stronger. Okay, I'm going to go on the top. We're going to get it cut out on the top. Okay, I'm going to get my sawzall ready. Now, being that the roof is aluminum up there, and I don't want to scratch it up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some tape, some blue painter's tape, and I'm going to put it right on the bottom of my saw. Instead of taping the whole top, I'll put some tape on the bottom of this saw so it'll be nice and smooth, and hopefully it won't scratch nothing up. We don't want to scratch up the whole roof just because we want to cut a hole in it. We'll get this taped up, and that'll save us a bunch of scratches, hopefully. And we'll just push that down there. It should give me a nice smooth surface. And then I'll cut out where the hole goes here, so we can see where we're cutting. Throw our blade back in. I'm going to use a metal, an aggressive metal blade. So, because I know I got to cut wood too down in there. So, this should work out pretty good. See, we got some tape on there. I just wanted to make sure that this thing's running true. I don't like this saw at all. I really don't like it. I've never actually got it to cut a straight, you know, like the blade kind of looks like I got it off, you know, but it's not. It's straight, but you know, I just don't like that. So now we're going to get up there and we're going to see if we can get this hole cut. Alright, now we're back on the top. I hope the camera stays there and doesn't fall off. We're going to go ahead and start cutting across each one of these. See if we can get us a hole cut out. Now, hopefully everything will work out. You know, nobody wants to cut a hole in the roof of their camper, but me, I guess. There's a hole. Okay, we'll get this cleaned off. I'll use a blower. I'll use the air compressor and blower and blow all this stuff off the top of here and clean it up. And we'll try out our fan. Hopefully it fits in the hole. Okay, we got the big test here. Let's see if our hole is the right size. Oh, and it fits like a glove. Now, one of these campers, and I think just about all campers, have a little bit of a roll to the roof. With this being vinyl, I think we can just press that back down on there, no problem, and seal that up. Now, I have a sealer here. I'll get it and show it to you. I think they call it a duck seal. And I got it from the weather stripping and caulk cord. And I picked this up at Lowe's. And I'll be putting this underneath of it. And if you look at it, it's just a strip. There's a strip in here, you just pull it off. It's like a cord. I'm sure I'll have to get it out of there somehow. But it's just a cord. It's all wrapped up here. Now I'll put this underneath of it. And hopefully that'll seal good to the roof. But you just take that and put it on. Now I have another sealer coming. I don't have it right now. But yins will never know because I'm going to do this in a couple days. So, but anyhow, I have this sealer to go underneath there. And I think what I'm going to do, now, this thing says I could put it in a 1-inch roof. Well, if you notice, this looks like a 5/16 wafer board. And we got a little piece of aluminum there. So what I'm going to do is I'll probably cut a piece of wood for the inside to trim this out. I'll bring it down a little bit more. It'll bring it maybe 3/4 of an inch more. And then I may end up having to cut some off the sides of this and some off of the, I know for sure on the trim board or the plastic cover that goes on the inside, because it's like 4 or 5 inches thick. So I'll be cutting some off of it to get this where we want it. We want this thing to be able to screw down good and be able to, that piece over there, to go up on there good. So we got the fan, and the fan hole is good. So, but I'll keep going step by step as I do this. And if you have a runaway camper or a small camper and you want to put one in, maybe this will help you out. Okay, this is the trim that I said goes up in the top, and this is made to adjust for different size ceiling thickness. Okay, and mine's not going to be really that thick. So what I did is I stuck it up in there, and right where the fan piece come up on there, I measured it down, and I came up with about 2 3/4 of an inch I need to cut off. So I'm going to take a little bit more than that because I don't need it all. So I'm going to take just a little bit more. This actually goes up inside the fan, so you're not going to see any of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along here and mark this out. I'm going to take 3 1/4 inches off. And well, maybe I'll just go 3. If I need a little bit more, I'll take 3, and if I need a little more, I'll try to cut some more off. Now, I don't know exactly how to cut this, but I have a Dremel tool, and I think I have a plexiglass cutter. I don't know which would be the best. So we're going to take 3 inches off, and if we have to take more, we'll take more off later. But like I said, this is just a trim. All it does is hide the inside of everything. So as long as it goes in that slot there and you screw it down, you're in good shape. Now there's some wires that go in here too. And I'll have to figure out how I'm going to get them wires out of there and down the wall, because in these runaway campers, there is no walls. It's just plywood. So what I thought I would do, I was thinking about using maybe a small piece of like water line, plastic water line, and I could get some nice little clamps and clamp it up. I'm going to be putting a TV in there, so I need a wire for the TV, the fan, and a small light. So I thought about doing some water line. I can get T's and elbows and everything, and just let the wire come out there, and that would hold it into place, and hopefully it would look pretty good. So I got this marked all the way around. I'll get me a straight edge, and I'll mark it again, and then I'll get back to you, and we'll see how we're going to cut it. I'll have to figure something out first. Okay, what I was working with here now is I have a little plexiglass cutter, and it seems like it's going to work okay. But I'm just going to have to take my time, and it takes little slivers off every time you cut it. So you can probably pick one of these up at your hardware store or Lowe's or something that has tools and stuff. But it's a little plexiglass cutter, and I'm just going to take my time. I'm in no big hurry. And I'm going to keep cutting this until it goes all the way through. Now you might have to go over it several times. I feel it coming through on the inside now. So actually it's almost through. And it seemed to work pretty good. So this is what I'll be using to cut this with. Alright, what I did here, I used a plexiglass cutter to cut all these sides. Okay, the toughest part was this corner. So what I did is I took a hacksaw. Once I got all the centers all cut, I took a hacksaw and just, because it was easy to take the hacksaw just to cut the corners. So that's what I did. I used the hacksaw to cut all the corners. Now I'll take a piece of sandpaper over this and clean this up real nice, and it should look really nice. And this, like I said, this just goes up on the bottom of the fan to hide everything. So and we don't need a very thick. We're not going to be really thick on this, you know. So I need this as thin as I can get it. So that's how I cut the bottom piece. Okay, I just got back from Lowe's, and I went in and picked up a 1x. It's 3/4 inch thick. What we're trying to do here is we want to make the ceiling a little thicker. That way our two pieces can clamp down on it. Right now we're we're not very thick. It looks like 5/16 wafer board on the top of that thing. So we're going to use this trim board to make it a little fatter so we can screw it in good. So I'm going to be building a square frame out of this to mount in the top. I'll go ahead and get that cut and glued together. Now we got some wiring, some housing for our wiring here. I'm not real sure how it works. I've never used it before. It's got a sticky membrane, sticky tape here, and then you just slide your wires through it. It looks like there's a couple elbows and a coupler or something. I don't have to go very far, but we're going to try to get the wire inside that thing. I hope you guys can see it. Going to try to get the wire in there and get it up there somehow. We'll figure it out. So we're going to go ahead and get our frame built for the top and get it glued together. Okay, we have our box built now. This is what's going to go around the inside of the fan up on the ceiling. And I just cut them all in 45s. They're 14 inches square inside. And used some glue there. I used some adhesive on there to glue them together. I actually used a little liquid nail. And we put a couple little brad nails in the corners just to hold them in there. Now, we're going to take a router, and we're going to route where our wires are going to go in. So they're going to be through this thing here, and then I need a light over here. So I'm going to route a little slot for them wires to go through inside this wire, or inside this wood. So, but that's going to be another day. We're going to let this set up and dry real good. And but we got the box built. We'll sand that down. We'll make it look pretty. It'll look nice, and we'll get to where our wires are going to be in there. We'll get them routed out and get her put up. Okay, as you can see, we have our square frame. I haven't sanded or anything yet or cleaned it up, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this frame up here. I'm going to get it squared up where I want that frame to set. Then I'm going to clamp this. I'm going to get this clamped up where we want it. Once I clamp this in, I'm going to take a razor blade. I'm going to take a razor blade and I'm going to cut the carpet around the outside. Go around it real good. Get that knife in that corner as close as you can to that board. Now let's say we got off a little bit. If we're off a little bit, what we'll do is I'm going to paint this frame black. So if we're off a little bit, we'll just paint it black up in there and nobody will ever see it. Never know. So now we'll take our frame back down. I'm going to glue this frame into place, and I'll probably take some brad nails or whatever, small ones, and put in there. Now we'll just pull our carpet down and hopefully it's cut in the same shape as our frame. And that's what we were looking for right there. Pretty nifty, eh? So now what we'll do is we'll get some glue and we'll set that back in there where it goes and glue it. And I'll put a few brad nails in there. I have a couple wires that need to come through here and 2 little wires up here. When I built the frame, it was 14 1/8 by 14 1/8. I didn't really do that on purpose, but that's what it ended up. So I left the 1/8 inch on this side to run the wires inside that frame, and an 1/8 inch up here to run that wires. So all I got to do is notch underneath here and notch underneath over here, and we'll be fine on our wires. So that's the inside frame so far. Okay, here's our frame. We got it painted up, and on the back side you can see these grooves. And in these grooves, I'm going to put my wires through there. 1 wire or 2 wires there. Actually, there's 4 wires that go through here, and then just 2 wires that are going to go through there. So I'm thinking once I put that up against the ceiling, I'll be able to slide them wires out of there and slide the wires on the inside through here. So we're going to get this thing mounted up on here. Alright, what we did, we put a little bit of liquid nail on that side, and we got liquid nail on that up there. We're going to center this thing back up where we want it put in there. Then we're going to clamp it. Got a couple blocks of wood here just to keep it from scratching everything up. Once we get it centered up in there, we'll snug them down. Now I think we're in place here pretty good, so we'll just give these a good clamp. And that might help take some of the bow out of the ceiling. You know what, I might go ahead and put a clamp over here and over here too, just to be sure. And we'll throw a couple nails in there. So that makes our frame a little thicker up in there, and we should be able to run our wires through these little holes. And then I'm going to put a light in here, right here. So I would run a couple wires out of here from inside this frame. So we just got to go kind of with the flow, because I don't know much about this, but we're gonna get her done. And I'm hoping she'll look nice. Okay, there's what it looks like with all the clamps on it. We got 4 clamps, and we won't take nothing off. I put some brad nails in there, so we'll just leave that set until the next day. Hopefully all the glue will be good and dry, and then we can start putting our fan in. Okay, we've taken all the clamps down and we put our fan back in, and what we're doing right now is we're going to make a mark over here on this side over here, right here, where them wires need to go up underneath of that board there. So what I'll do is I'll go down in there and I'll take my my soldering gun, and I'll melt a couple holes through there, or a nice little hole through there, so I can get these wires underneath of this framework. So that's what I'm working on now. Okay, here's where I made the mark on the inside where I want that little slot to go. Now we know that that's where our 3/4 inch trim board was there. So what I'm going to do is I want to come down about 3/4 of an inch on that. It's going to be hard for me to do without, I don't want to hide the thing from you. So I'll mark at 3/4 of an inch down, about right in here. Now this should be the bottom of that board right there. So all I'll do is I'll take my soldering gun while I watch on the inside so I don't hit these wires or anything. I will take this thing and heat it up. And I know it's probably not good for the atmosphere and everything else, but I need a hole burnt in here. And that's what I'm going to do. Now that's all I need right there. Now, that gives me a hole to put these wires through. What I'll do is I'll take a knife and I'll cut off where I melted here and on the inside. I'll take a razor blade knife, I'll just trim that off and trim that off. And then I have to trim the outside of this. So this will go down in there and not interfere in these wires too. So let me get this cleaned up and then we'll work on that right there. Alright, we got this cleaned up here. We took a knife, cleaned that out a little bit and scraped it. And it's really nice, no sharp edges on there. We fished our wires through here. We mounted this thing on, and it's not that bad. It's not too tight in there. I'm hoping it'll be okay. I didn't want to make this any weaker than I already did because this is pretty thin because of my wall. So I'm not going to do anything to this. We're going to go ahead and go up inside. I'm going to put a dome light in there later. I'm going to get the wires run for that dome light because they're going to be hooked to this. So I'll go ahead and get them in there. I'm going to hot glue them in and we'll get this thing mounted in. Okay, I wanted to give you guys a little close-up of that wire that I want to put in for my dome light. I will hot glue this wire in here and then it goes through the side and my dome light will go up here in the front. But this will be hooked to the wires going to the fan. I'm only going to have two things, a light and a fan on this wire. Then over there I will be mounting a TV, and then down there I'll be mounting a 12-volt outlet and some USB ports, and then the wire will go out that way. So I'm going to go ahead and hot glue this in. Okay, you can see where we hot glued that in there. Hopefully that'll pass our fan when it comes down in, our vent. I'm pretty sure that it will. It has a little bit of play in there. And we'll go ahead and give that a try and then we'll start mounting our fan in. Okay, I got some rubbing alcohol. I'm going to use some rubbing alcohol to clean around this thing. I don't know if this is the right move or not, but I always use rubbing alcohol on cleaning before I put a gasket on. Or I'll use a thinner or something like that. So I just used a little bit of rubbing alcohol, and I'm going to rub this down, just try to clean this surface up, make sure there's no oils, nothing on there that could make this thing not stick to that ceiling or to the roof up there. So I'm going to rub that down, make sure that's good and clean all the way around there so that stuff will stick good to it. We put our seal on here. Hopefully we won't have no leaks. Now, right before I set up the camera, I went over and washed my hands real good because I don't want oil or anything that might be on my hands to get on this either. So it's all about keeping it clean for that seal. And that's the way I look at it, you know. So I always want to, if I'm going to put a gasket on, I want to make sure my hands, everything's cleaned up good. So we're going to go ahead and start rolling our seal out here. And we're not going to smash this on, we're just going to make sure it sticks, that's all. We just want it to stick there a little bit to hold it in place until we get it down on there. What I'll do, I'll get my little pair of scissors here and I'll just snip this stuff right off and we'll start a new one here. And we'll go all the way around this guy. Clear around it. We're going to make sure these are pinched together. We want them touching really nice and neat. So I figured if I cut it with a pair of scissors, at least when I start the next edge, it'll be a straight cut and not pulled off and pinched. It all should all be the same size as we go around. We want to butt it right up against that. Make sure it's butted in there good. Now I will go on the top of the roof too, and I will take that rubbing alcohol and I will rub that down too, so it's a good clean seal up there. Make sure these butt up nice. See how that butts in there. This should work out pretty good. Now we also have another sealer. I've got a lap joint sealer. It's I actually ordered it off of eBay, and I'll show you what that is here in a bit as I get these sealed up. Now we're not going to worry about trimming any of this stuff off the edge until we get this thing set in there. Once it's in there, then we'll worry about whatever's around the edge, and that will come off with just a little plastic. We'll take a piece of plastic putty knife or something, or squeegee or something, and cut that off. So that part's done. Now what I'm going to do is get up on the roof and I'm going to clean it and get it ready. Now we're going to use the same rubbing alcohol that I used on the fan, and we're just going to clean the edge all the way around this thing to make sure there's nothing on there that'll keep that from sticking. Here's where I was fishing them wires down in there. We got to make sure our wires get fished in there. They go right in that little crack. You get them as far as you can reach from out here, and then we'll go inside and pull it down just like we did the last time. Okay, what I'll do is I'm going to do all four corners first. I'm not going to go real deep with this. I just want to make sure that I'm through all of the aluminum, because it has aluminum coating on here. So we'll go ahead and start screwing this. We want it to hold it into place before we start tightening it all down, and then we don't want to tighten it so tight that you squish all your putty out. You want to try to keep your putty in there, but you want it tight, but you don't want all the putty to come out. So I'll do that on all four corners. That's going to hold this thing right into place for me. Okay, we got all of our screws in, all of them's tightened up, and what I was doing now, I couldn't find a plastic putty knife, but I had a little squeegee, and I was taking it around the outside of it and cutting all the extra putty off the outside edge. Just been going around the outside edge. Now, I don't have a good putty knife, and I would recommend getting a good putty knife to take this off with. I actually was using my metal one, but I have to be real careful that I don't scratch my aluminum roof. You know, I wouldn't want to scratch it all up. Okay, we're putting the lap seal on. I went around the other side, and I just put a little dab of each on each one of these screws. I'll put a little dab on each one of the screws, and I wipe them off with the alcohol. And okay, and then I took a bead and went right around the outside edge of this. Like so. And then I got my finger messy because I like to smooth it out a little bit. They say it's self-leveling, but I want it smooth as I can get it. I want to smear it up on that top a little bit. So that's what I end up with. And I think that's a pretty good seal right there. Okay, there's our fan. Now I have a way to hook this up to show you this thing works. So let me get a couple wires on this. I got a battery charger. I'm going to turn it on just to show you that it works. I'm going to open it up. That's all manual, and it's okay to have manual in here because it's, you know, you can reach everything. Let me hit my switch here. Alright. I'm telling you, this thing is blowing some good air, and that's on low. And it does have forward and reverse. It's blowing in right now, and I think this screen is easy to pop off so you can clean it. The screen pops right down out. That's low. There's medium. And for a runaway camper, if you put this thing on high, you figure you got 920 square foot of air flowing through here a minute. So that's pretty cool. And one of them nights when we're sitting at Walmart and we don't have electricity to plug that air conditioner on, this fan is going to come in handy. So that's the installation. Alright everybody, I hope you enjoyed watching the installation of the vent fan for the Runaway camper. I was going to run the wires inside this plastic tube I got from Lowe's, but I found something better. I'm going to use something I think that'll work out a lot better for me in my situation, and if you have a Runaway camper in yours too. My next video, I'll be putting a battery box in. I got a battery box here. It used to be for my boat, but I'm going to mount it up here, and then I'm going to run the wires in there. I'm going to get a dome light and stuff put in this too. So I'm going to go ahead and order the dome light, and I may order the TV for in there. And the next video, I'll show putting all that stuff in there. I wanted to tell everybody thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe or give me thumbs up or thumbs down. I hope this helps you on your Runaway camper.